Hey, everybody.
Hello,
Welcome
everyone. Welcome and good evening.
to Church Girls Chronicles. We thank you so much, as always, every single week for joining us right here on Church Girls Chronicles because you could be doing anything else, but you take time out of your Thursday night to spend time with us. And we think that's awesome. We think it's great. And we
Very much.
appreciate it. We don't take it for granted, um, because you don't have to be nice, but you're being nice to us. So we appreciate that a lot.
Are
We
they
do.
being
We
nice?
do. Yes, we love you. We love you. We love you for it. And since you're here, whether you're watching us on YouTube or on Steph's Instagram page, can you please do us a favor and go to all of our social medias for Church Girls Chronicles? We have a YouTube page, we have a Facebook page, we have a TikTok page, and we have an Instagram page. And what color? What's that logo? What color did you say it was? Our logo is burgundy
Purple
and gold.
gold.
It's like purple, but it's not like royal purple.
It's
It's
not. Yeah,
not
it's not a
like.
super. A purple burgundy. I don't know. It's like a cross between the
Yes,
purples and
between the two.
a maroon,
Maroon. Yes,
maybe.
it's like a maybe maroonish. But you know it. Just type in Church Girls Chronicles and look for our faces. You
Yeah,
know what I'm
because
saying? Because we're on the page,
we're on the
right?
page. Yeah,
And then when you get there, click follow or subscribe or like or whatever,
or
and
all of
and
the above.
follow us, yeah, all of the above on all of the socials, and then go watch a video and comment maybe on a video that you missed, and we'll see the comment and we'll reply. We're
Yes, we
not gonna leave you
will.
out there hanging. We're not gonna leave
No,
you.
we won't.
We promise you. But if you could do us that one solid, we would really be forever grateful.
And it would help
You know,
to reunite with you in engagement.
Yes, yes, yes. We'd like to get back to our live lives. So, in order
Love it.
for us to get back to our live lives, we have to follow the rules as they change on Instagram and TikTok and all the
For
social media
sure.
sites. So, as our platform grows, we can give you guys more live engagement, which we're hoping to
Hmm.
get back to soon as possible. All right. But until then, we thank you for joining us right here tonight in this manner. And we'll be engaging with your comments. So please comment while you're here tonight.
Please.
Type your comments in the comment section on Steph's page and on YouTube. Type your comments in and we'll reply and we'll get back and we'll talk about those things that you guys want to talk about. But
For
we
sure.
thank you for being here with us tonight. We do. We do.
Yes, we do. We appreciate you tonight, and we're glad you're joining us. We're excited to get to talking for real.
So we started a series, I guess we're 4 weeks ago, called Doing the Work. We started talking about, the first episode was talking about what are hesitations and hindrances and why it's so hard to get started doing the work.
For
And
sure.
then we talked about eating by faith and eating right and how that's part of doing the work.
Hmm.
And last week we started, our episode was give it a rest. How important rest is to us doing the right thing for our
For our body.
body.
Hmm.
Yeah, and we decided that we needed to continue that conversation this week, and we're going to push the official fourth part off till next week, which
Yeah,
is building a healthy community and how support and having the right people around you um can really really help you in a lot of ways. So last week, in talking about give it a rest and how important rest is for our bodies, we talked about how there's 7 types of rest. There's physical rest. We talked about physical rest in pretty good detail because I think that's the one that people kind of tune into most. You think about rest, you think about sleep.
yeah,
But so there's physical rest, there's emotional rest, there's mental rest, social rest, creative rest, sensory rest, and spiritual rest. So we talked about emotional and mental rest last week, and how emotional rest is really talking about your feelings, whether it's journaling,
for
talking to a
sure.
therapist, is not holding stuff in. How mental rest means you got to take a break from what it is that you're working on and just find a
Yeah,
way to not have to think about all the things. And sometimes silence works for some people. And
yes,
then we talked about physical rest in probably in most detail. And one thing that we ended up with was Steph threw out a term called sleep hygiene
yes,
and why that's important. So we didn't give a chance to really get into sleep hygiene. So we're going to start with that this week and then move into the other 4 parts of rest. So Steph, you were talking about, you in your be mindful moment, you brought up sleep hygiene
yeah.
and why that's so important. So what is sleep hygiene, first of all? What is it? Tell me what it is. I mean, I
So
know, but tell the peoples.
So, like, hygiene is just the way that you care for yourself. Your physical body, your personal hygiene would be your physical body. Your sleep hygiene would be the way that you care for your sleep and how you are intentional about rest. And I think a lot of people, like when I'm talking to my clients who struggle with rest, insomnia, and all those kinds of things, I go through these checklists about things that contribute to healthy sleep hygiene. And staying consistent is like one of the first things, right? You have to begin to implement a plan. That sleeping should be like a plan, right? Shannon, you mentioned something. I don't know if we were on air or not. Off. I think we had come off air, but
Yeah, because
you
we
mentioned
keep
something about
talking.
that sleep is really the bed is really only three things are supposed to be happening in your
Oh
bed:
yeah, we were off.
sleep, sex, and if you're sick. Those are the only
Yeah.
three things that should be happening in your bed. And so many people do so many other things in their bed. The whole purpose of the reason why that's said is because anytime you're doing anything else in your bed, your body then begins to connect those activities,
Mm-hmm.
right, to the bed. So if you are in the bed watching TV, in the bed reading a book, in the bed doing work, your body doesn't know immediately when you're getting in the bed that you're gonna
That it's
what it's
time to
supposed
go
to
to
be
sleep.
doing, right? What it's supposed to be doing. And so that's why it's supposed to be reserved for sleep, sexual activity, or if you're sick and you can't get out of bed.
Right.
So that your
And you're
body is
using that
able
time to
to.
get well.
Right. So your body then associates that posture, that position, and that place with resting, not doing other
Mm-hmm.
things. And so that's one of the very important parts of sleep hygiene. And then developing an intentional, consistent rhythm around going to bed, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we call it a wind down time. So you kind of give yourself a time. Dinner is going to be generally done around 6:30, 7 o'clock, or 7:30, 8 o'clock, whenever it's done for you. But the best sleep hygiene is gained when at least 1 hour before you're going to go lay down, whatever that looks like. If you don't go to bed till 10:30, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 9:30, you need to be disengaging from any type of electronics, not necessarily watching television, and starting to do things that can help your body wind down. Some people choose to exercise, not rigorous exercise or cardio, but more like stretching and things that help you to be a little bit more meditative or mindful. Create around you an effective sleep environment. For me, some people need sound. So instead of it being the television, if you have Alexa, I have one of those diffusers that also
Mm.
plays sleep sounds. So my
Your
diffuser,
diffuser is very active.
my
It
diffuser can play sleep sounds. It's a remote control to it, and it plays.
plays. Wait a
It
minute.
does. It plays ocean sounds. It plays.
Your
Um,
diffuser does
My
all those
diffuser plays
things.
white noise, ocean sounds, that music that you get when you're in like getting a massage. It plays that.
Yeah.
Just those
Yeah.
still
Those
steady
mandolin.
note sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So creating an environment. Some people, you have to be intentional about it. So you create an environment. Part of your sleep hygiene is to
Yo,
create
that's
the
funny to
environment for
me.
you to sleep well. If you know that you're your kind of person that you can't sleep with your room messy, you need to make sure that your room stays clean and organized.
Yeah.
Because if it's disorganized, you're not going to rest. And so you create the environment you want around you in your sleep space. Another one of the things is to maintain your routine. So if 8:30
Mm.
is down time and you're a shower or a teeth brusher, clothes getter outer, with all those things to prepare yourself for the next day. Within that last hour before you begin to wind down, that's the time to do those things. And you create this routine around sleep so that your body starts to prepare itself for rest. So that by the time you get in the bed, you are well ready to go off to sleep. You avoid and limit any substances that would be a stimulant to your body. So, caffeine, if you're taking particular kinds of medications for mental health, and their extended release. If you're taking any kind of extended release tablet or medication that provides another burst of the medication throughout the day, you want to make sure that you're taking that early enough in the day so those doses
So
are
that
not
you're not.
right. And
Yeah.
then blue light exposure is big. So minimum blue light exposure, which means those of you that like to sleep with TVs on. Blue
No
light exposure
phones.
messes up your body's sleep rhythm or circadian rhythms. So it messes that up because blue light exposure uh, mimics ultraviolet light from outside. So your
Mm-hmm.
body thinks it's still the daytime. Our body actually goes into a process when day turns to night to prepare us for
Mm-hmm.
sleep, chemically and physiologically. And so if you sleep with a blue light television situation happening on around you, your body then gets confused thinking it's daylight. And so it's really, really, really
Mm.
important. That includes LED screens. It includes watching the television or watching your phone. It actually decreases melatonin in your body when you're exposed to blue light during evening hours. The melatonin becomes decreased, and it really kind of jacks up your hormonal levels. And the hormones that help you fall asleep and stay asleep are not as active during that time.
Okay, that's good information. I think the other part of that is our content director said she's actually sleepy right now.
Oh
Um,
yes. Yeah.
and I feel you, so am I. But and I think that one of the important parts you said about that is the routine. You have one, and it's hard. I know it's difficult at night to switch things up. Um, but because for me, I've had to start practicing a routine, and
Mm-hmm.
it includes those things. I know at night I do my little sinus rinse thing. I take my nighttime vitamins, and then I brush my teeth. I get my clothes out for the next day, and I start all of that at a certain time of night. And I put my phone on do not disturb. If
Yes.
you're not my family members or a certain specific someone, it don't matter. You're not getting through on my phone. Okay,
Right.
pumpkin, until 8 a.m. the next day. And yes, I get
Yes.
to work at 6:30 in the morning, but my sleep focus does not turn off until 8 a.m. because
Yep.
there's not things that are that important that you need to bother me with while I'm trying to get some sleep. I think the hardest thing for me is the TV thing. I've been thinking about taking the TV out of my room, but we'll see. We're working on it. We're working on it. But it has been very helpful. And getting my brain ready to know that it's time for me to go and lay down. And I'm finding that with that routine, that by the time I get ready to get in bed, I'm really too sleepy to watch TV. I'm
Mm-hmm.
tired and I want to go to sleep. And although
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a fancy diffuser that plays music, I do like my rain sounds, like the sound of
Yeah.
rain and
But you can do that with
thunderstorms.
Alexa on the side of your Alexa does it on
Yes,
your phone. You can play them
yes,
on your phone, plug your phone up on the other side of the room and put those sounds on. So if it's white noise, if it's oceans, if it's rainforests, if it's that meditation music, whatever that lulling asleep kind of lullaby that works for you.
yeah. So it's really important. It's really important. If you watch last week's episode and you pair it with this week's episode in the beginning, this part of the episode, you'll see why us talking about sleep hygiene is really important, because physical rest, as we know, is one of the primary rests that people, they think that that's all there is, though. They think, well,
Hmm.
if I sleep, then then I'll be good, and that's not necessarily true, especially in today's world. There's so much going on. There's so many things that are happening in the world. There. We talked about mental and emotional rest, right? But there's four more. There's also social rest, there's creative rest, there's sensory rest, and there's spiritual rest, right? Um, so let's talk about creative rest first. For those people who are like, creative rest, being creative is great and it's freeing and it's all the things. But creative rest is sometimes creative thinking takes a lot of energy.
It does.
It takes a lot of energy to consistently be creative.
Right.
There's
And a lot of
pressure
us have
behind
jobs
it.
that, yeah, a lot of us have jobs or we're doing it because we have to. So creativity is something that we're using all the time.
Right. Right. Um, it's it's inevitable. You know, people, oh, I'm not creative. Yeah, you are. If you have to go to your job and do your job, you got to be creative at some point. And
Hmm.
you know, sometimes you just need to take a break from it, because I think there's also a lot of pressure put on creatives to be creative, you know,
Hmm.
to come up with the next great thing, you know, whether it's the next great painting or the next best song, or that's a lot. It's a lot of pressure, I think, and stress on creatives to be creative, even with content creation. Yo, I don't want to ever do that.
That's why I stopped doing it. It was like
It's
a weight
yo,
on my brain. It's a lot of work, yo. When I do it
man.
all the time and every day and doing a once a week show and all that stuff. I mean, like 2 or 3 times a week I was coming on and editing and all that stuff. That was just a lot for my old brain at the time. I started doing it in my late 40s, and I was like,
Oh
this,
God, that's even worse.
this is not for the week. Can't do it. But even for those that may not have a creative job and be doing that, if you're a lawyer or a doctor and you're someone who's problem solving throughout the day, and like you're a supervisor and you're having to
Right.
figure out how to do, all these kinds of things, and you're constantly problem solving or um, uh, figuring out ways to diffuse conflict and having to come up with creative ways to do that because you're working with people all the time. Your creative juices are always flowing, and so you definitely need to be able to give that some rest.
Right, you do. You do. You need to know how to just step away from it, and not have that constant, you know, pressure and wheel always turning. You know, like that smoke coming out of your ears, you know, to analogy. You got to be able to step away from it. And because even now I'm seeing more often, a lot of these content creators are taking a break. They're taking a
You
break.
have to.
They're
You reading
stepping
all the stuff that
away.
people have to say, and you listening and
Oh
ingesting
yeah.
all the information and dealing with people who are now, who are trolling you, who are doing all kinds of things. You definitely have to step away because it opens you up to the world and all of its ignorance.
Right. It does, you know, and they get hop back on. And one lady I follow, you know, she has children, and it's like back to school and everything got hectic. She has like 4 or 5 kids, and has a son who's graduating this year from high school, and he's a big football person. So, you know, you just have to pay attention to the other stuff sometimes. And that break from that creative space can be very um it can be very restful if you do
Hmm.
it when you're supposed to. I know a couple of other folks that we follow. We talk about Jackie Hill Perry often, and she took a break from social media for a long time, like almost a year, I think, because it's overwhelming. It's a lot of pressure. So, you know, taking a creative break is very important, and I think, you know, it's one of the things that we have to um, remind ourselves that it's okay to do, because this whole thing is talking about, even last week's part one of, you know, give it a rest, is that it's we this mentality that we have, that it's not okay to take a break from anything. You know, we
Yeah.
have to we have to break ourselves out of that, because as we will find out a little bit later when we start talking about spiritual rest, it's a commandment that God gave us, and he created our bodies in a way that they need rest. And part of that rest is also learning and knowing how to depend on him in those moments when we are resting, in those moments when we're not hustling and grinding, in those moments when we're, you know, taking care of our bodies, and by allowing it to function the way he created it to function, is being able to let go sometimes and take our hands off of stuff and be like, you know what, God, I trust you to do what you're going to do, and I'm going to go over here and take this nap.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna go over here and hop off of social media, and I'm, you know, the brand is gonna be
Right.
the brand.
Right.
You know, the
Well, let
brand
it
is
do what
gonna
it
be the
do, Lord.
brand.
Right.
Yeah, let it do what it do, Lord, because you
Do
you
it do.
gave it to me in the first place,
Right.
so
For,
I gotta
for, sure.
trust you to sustain it. You know,
For sure.
and I think we lose sight of that so many times, and we, you know, if we ain't doing it, if we ain't putting our we if the Lord gave it to you, it's his to look after and provide
For
for.
sure.
You know, if it's God's will, it's his bill, it's his he's gotta work it all together. He's gotta give provision. It all comes from him. So if we're
It does.
constantly putting our hand to the plow and not giving our bodies the time to work the way He created it to work, that's partly that's us telling God that we don't trust Him to do His job and what He promises He would do. So it's okay to step away from the social media content creation and trust God with your brand, or go get
Yeah.
a job because you got to support it financially. That's a creative break too. Sometimes the hustle and bustle of trying to figure out how to pay for everything because you out here doing that entrepreneur thing so hard, that's stressful when fiduciary
Right.
commitments are not being met.
Right. Right.
So you might need
And
to
yeah.
take a creative break and go get a job.
Right. And that has nothing to do with, being a dream killer or anything like that.
Nope.
It really is just using wisdom and being practical in your thinking and knowing, that everything, as the scripture says, everything that's lawful is not always expedient, which
Not
simply
always
means
expedient.
just because you can do it doesn't mean you should be doing it right now, that it's the time for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the time, right? It is not always the right time. And it could be that the time for rest is and time and rest, there's a allotted time for rest, and so time for rest is time for rest, and that when that season comes, whatever it takes for you to have to step away from whatever it is. So if creativity and entrepreneurship is your wet road and you need a sabbatical from that, then it may mean getting a little part-time job and making money so that you're not struggling with, like she said, making ends meet.
Yeah, because that's stressful. I mean, because Stephanie and I are both entrepreneurs, and we talk to each other about the stress of trying to maintain a business. Yo, I mean,
It's a
I
lot.
haven't worked a corporate job in 5 years.
Yeah.
That's scary. That's scary out here when you used to provide for yourself and take care of yourself, being independent, having health insurance,
Yeah. And a check to come every 2 weeks.
and a check to come every 2 weeks. So I started subbing. I mean, I knew I needed to do something. I didn't go back to corporate America, but I did something that I felt fit into what I was trying to do.
To
And
achieve in your entrepreneur
right,
ventures, right? Because going back to
exactly,
corporate America wouldn't have given you the time and the energy to be able to
exactly,
do and pursue. But you
right,
also need to be working, and so I think
right,
that's a big thing for me. Like with people, I'm like, because you can't have mental rest if you are not exercising wisdom. It just
right.
doesn't make sense. You have to
It doesn't make
exercise wisdom
sense.
in your life, and work having to work does not equate a lack of rest,
Right,
or that you in some way are not that that you are um, depriving yourself of fulfillment. No, there, like I said, it's a time and place for all things. Ecclesiastes 3 tells us, that the time to reap and a time to sow, a time to live and a time to die,
time
a
to
time to
die.
plant and a time to pluck up. Like there is a time and place for all things.
And this might be your time to plant by going to getting a job.
Hmm. Amen.
It's
And
seven
then
o'clock.
it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, my computer tells me what time it is. So
I need her not to do that though. While we in the middle of it, so she says they're not gonna be watching.
I forgot. It tells me on the top of the hour. Praise the Lord.
That is hilarious. I love it. So yes, get you guys some creative rest.
Yeah.
Another big one, and I think they can kind of go hand in hand sometimes, depending on what your creative niche is social rest, right?
Mm.
We have this term. Steph and I share this term about our people meter. My people meter will get to zero, and I'm done. I can't. I don't want to be around no folks that I don't that I feel like I gotta engage with and be on for and da 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 da. Like if it's just me and her chilling, that I can do that. But yo, no. Sometimes you gotta tell folks, no, I'm not going out with you. I need a minute to regroup. It's okay to not
For
be at all the
sure.
things.
Yeah, and I think the misunderstanding often comes because you think that only people who are introverted need that. And I'm an introverted extrovert. I'm an extroverted introvert. I'm an introvert.
Ambivert,
I'm an
ambivert.
ambivert. Yeah.
Me too.
I'm an ambivert, and so because when I'm in a social space, I know how to move in a social space, and I enjoy the people I'm around. I'm hoping that they're enjoying me, and all the things. However, and
Mm.
I'm claiming sometimes to get up at that space. I'm like, God bless,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I truly do appreciate not having to hear people talk to me. And
I
it's what I do for a
appreciate
living
it.
too. Yeah, it's often what I do for a living. So when people are often talking to you, right? There comes a
Right.
time you just don't want to hear that, and it's okay for me to say that. It's not mean, it's not rude, it's not disrespectful. There just comes a time where I don't want to talk to people, and I don't want to listen to them talk. um, and it's okay. I have to give myself that time because
Yep.
uh, it's a needed rest. And so my social meter and social rest is often important, and even for those who just are social butterflies, every
Yep.
once in a while you have to pull away.
Yeah. And
Um,
the Bible, even Jesus did it. I think it's in one of the Gospels. Um, it, let me find it. Oh, I found it. Matthew chapter 14. It says, after he had dismissed them, he told them to go away. Not only did he tell them to go away, he then also went away. He says he went up onto the mountain by himself to pray. And when the evening came, he was there alone.
yeah,
He
amen.
knew he needed some time. You know,
And a
he
full
first
fullness.
yeah, he said, all right, well, thank y'all for stopping by.
For sure.
But y'all gotta go now. And so if we don't listen, to anything else, and take the example of Jesus, it's okay to get away from the folks sometime.
And
you
that's
know
when people are even like, when we're talking about people who are not, doing the most or anything like that. A lot of us too, the reason why we experience burnout is because we simply did not exercise wisdom and allow ourselves to take a rest from the toxic things going on around us,
right.
whether it's our job, whether it's challenging people
Right.
that we encounter on a day-to-day basis. When we don't choose to effectively rest from those spaces, whatever that needs to look like for you, burnout is inevitable. And so you have to set clear boundaries in your life and in your space to help safeguard you
Hmm.
when you're dealing with environments and people and things that are constantly pulling on you. And you have to be able to say, not today, it's okay, for your own mental wellness.
Right. You have to, and it's okay. I think that's everything. It's okay. It's okay. I promise you, because God's got you. When you say no, sometimes we think that saying no is gonna, people are gonna think that we don't want to do the job, or people are gonna think that we don't. And in church, it's a big thing too. We talked about that in the last episode, but it's okay. God is going to cover all those spaces where we feel that level of uncertainty. You know,
Hmm.
um, and we have to trust that. Because if we don't trust that, then we don't trust Him. But that might be a conversation for another day. Um, but there's other types of rest also. Sensory rest, I think, is one that we don't really talk about a lot.
And we should,
We should. I am
in
finding
this day
moments to
and
not
age.
only just pull away, but to pull away and just like be in the quiet. Like no TV on. There are times when I go in. I usually do it when I'm washing dishes, and I won't put the TV on. I won't put on any music. I won't put on anything. Nothing. And I just stand there in the quiet at the sink and I wash the dishes because it's been overload.
Right.
you know, Parents between crying children, begging children, scents and smells, and changing diapers, and all the things that are happening to your senses all the time. Sometimes you just need that stuff to stop,
Yeah.
and you got
And
to
your senses
reset.
are, yeah, your ear gate, your eye gate, even like all things, right? So all five of our senses: taste, smell, touch, sight, and hearing. And we don't
Mm-hmm.
always think about taking a sensory break. The powerful impact or implications that brings even to what we put in our mouths and choose to eat, right?
Yep.
That sometimes it don't need to have 50,000 seasonings and flavors all the time because we may need to give our body a rest. Or it may need to be just some green juice.
Right. Or
That
water.
sensory rest, right,
Or
for
just
our
some
palate
water. Yeah.
or water for our palate and our body because that's a sense. That's a sense. It's one of the five senses. And so, and then in this day and time, right, we are all so um, immersed in technology. Whether you're sitting at
Hmm.
your office computer, at your job, you're at a computer. When you get home from work, you're watching television. You got your phone in your hand. You got your watch on your wrist. You got all of these things that are dinging and
Yeah.
flinging. You talking to Alexa, she
Hmm.
talking back,
Yeah.
telling you about
Yeah.
this, that, and the other. Like all of these things are happening around us all of the time and are like, poking at our day to day and our senses. And so sensory rest, it's very important that sometimes that we cut all those things off. We
Yeah.
we need to take whole seasons where we disconnect from social media. The scrolling process alone is addictive and was created as such purposefully.
Yep.
But if you take the time to step away from it, then you don't become so it doesn't have to become a place of escape, right?
Right.
We're not using it as a distraction or escapism, and we're able to better um, utilize it in a healthy way. And it also helps us to maintain healthy ways of expression, healthy
Hmm.
ways of managing our emotions and feelings. It really forces a place to do that when we're not
Hmm.
deadening ourselves or checking out by distracting ourselves through scrolling or TV and all these other things.
Hmm.
And so we need that
Hmm.
sensory rest to be able to recalibrate ourselves.
Right. And I think it's important, especially as we're moving on to the last phase of rest, is where we're probably going to spend most of our time on this in this particular episode, because sensory rest too, it it quiets our the noise, not just so the noise isn't there, but so that we can kind of connect spiritually in a way that we cannot with all the things going on. You can there's no way I can hear from God while I'm scrolling, while I'm teaching, while I'm taking care of the kids, while I'm taking care of the husband, while I'm at work dealing with my boss. Like there it's you can't do it. So you have to get to a point where even in your quiet time, you're not always talking.
Right,
It's called quiet time, not just because you somewhere by yourself, but because you also need to get quiet.
right.
You know, um, and it. I was surprised about with what is with you and your bells and whistles and dingings and carrying on.
All of a sudden, this thing wants to say loud things and be loud. I don't know. It's the devil.
I thought I was like, what happened? It's like a microwave bell. It just
Everything else is on Do Not Disturb. I don't know why.
you may have to. Are they linked? If they're not linked, you may have to put it on Do Not Disturb by itself. But I was really pleasantly surprised with even with me washing the dishes, with everything quiet, how I was able to kind of just hear from God in a way that I never thought washing the dishes would allow me to.
Yeah,
It's all the things that I pray about during the day while I'm out, blah blah blah, Lord keep me safe, blah blah blah. Blah. It's like He says, okay, now she's quiet, I can talk to her. Or now things around her are quiet and she's allowing her environment to quiet down. So now I can talk to her. I heard
right,
everything she said, but now
right.
she's ready to hear everything I have to say. So it's important that you find ways to spend some time in the quiet, even if it's just well, no, driving home and that don't work because I tried that.
It works
Have
for
you?
me.
Well, because you got to pay attention to the traffic, so your senses ain't really off. For me,
No,
I that don't work because somebody cut me off and I'm out. I'm out. It's a done deal. Sensories are back on. I'm mad and before you know it, turn the radio on so I don't cuss that person who just cut me off or who's following me too closely and almost
Right.
bangs into the back of my car. Like, nah, I gotta stay alert. So I tried the driving in quiet, but I still got to listen to what's going on around me, and I still got to pay
Yeah.
attention to what's happening. So just my senses aren't really turned completely off for that, you
Hmm.
know. So that didn't work as well for me. So I had to find something else to do once I got out the car. Does driving in quiet work for you when it comes to
Totally, driving in quiet works for me totally because I love it. Even when I pull up at home, sometimes I keep all the doors of my car closed. It's no sound in there, and I'll sit in the
Mhm.
parking lot like 20 minutes.
Right, sitting in the car, yes, while it's not moving, I get
Driving too,
that.
though, for me, in total silence on the highway is the
Mm,
best.
I think that's too much of a zone out because you're not paying attention. But I know a lot of people who come home and just like sit in the car for like 30 minutes,
That's me, child.
maybe longer.
That's
I
my.
can't do. I don't know what that's about for me. When I
I
get to
could do
where I'm
that.
going, I got to get out the car.
Nope,
I come in
not
my
me.
house and be quiet. No, I got to get out the car. I got to get out the car. I think maybe because there ain't nobody here, so I can come inside and still not have to deal with. I think that might be it. Because I was talking to Val about it, because she says, and Talisha too, they can sit in the car when they pull up in front of the house for the longest. And I'm
Yeah,
like, really? But then I get
I,
it though. You go into a house so full of people, you want to sit out here in the quiet for a little while. Yeah, that makes sense. And Val
yep,
always has
I
a house
do.
full of people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't never had no house full of people. That's the crazy thing about me. I don't have no house full of people. It don't be nobody in
No,
here,
you tell.
and I still sit in my car. I don't
Yeah,
know why,
but I
but
mean,
I
you
think
got
it's just
Jeff.
mm-mm. But he
Yes,
don't be
you
here.
do.
Sometimes he don't be here,
But
or
his
he be in his
essence
room.
presence is there. You got to
Yeah,
come in and he didn't wash the dishes, or
oh yeah, that's true. Dealing with other things that cause my
hmm
mind to go to the left. Yes, those things are probably the reason why I sit in my car for 20 minutes to
Yeah,
decompress. And I
yeah.
used to
I
do it
can't
when I
get
used to
mad
work
at
in jail.
nobody.
When I worked in jail,
Yeah.
I did it to leave the stench of whatever that was
I can't
someplace
imagine.
else. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'm good
I
then
can't
too.
get mad at nobody for the dishes not being washed, because guess who didn't wash them?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that. So, but find a way to give your senses a break, to be able to open up, like Steph says. I'm gonna use Steph's words: your ear gates and your eye gates and your nose gates and your palate gates. All the gates need to be cleared. Clear them out. Make
And
it
they're
a
gates because
clear
they're
pathway.
entryways into
Their entrances.
your entranceways into your soul and your spirit and all the things, right? Your your thought process, highly
Yes.
impacted by what you are dealing with through your senses. And when
Yeah.
you don't give it a rest and you wonder why, Lord, I've been watching horror flicks for the last week. And then you wonder why you
Last
going to
week.
sleep, can't get no rest because you jumping up in the middle of the night with dreaming of somebody chasing you in horror dreams. No child,
Mm-hmm.
Lord.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's not no deep revelation. You've been watching horror
No.
flicks for a week.
Yep. My pastor
And that
said the
has got
same thing.
filtered
Yep.
over into your subconscious. And
Yep.
it won't let you rest.
Yep. My pastor said the same thing today. Him and his wife had something happen. One of their neighbors were making a lot of noise or something last night, and they couldn't get. They were having a hard time sleeping. He said the first thing I thought about was just dropping a bomb on them. He said I had to think about why that was my first thought. He said because I've been watching all these action movies and all these things about people and things getting blown up. He said so. The first thing I thought about was
And go to going on over there. I
was
wish I'm
blowing up these people.
Rambo and them and stuff. Yeah.
I know. So it does. It influences your thoughts and your actions. So it's
Hmm.
good to kind of clear them out and settle and find your
For
center
sure.
again.
For sure.
And find out what's truly you, and what's in your heart to do, and what's not, um things that you've been influenced by. Because everything has an influence. Everything that you encounter in life influences you somehow. So you need a break from that stuff. to ground yourself
For
and
sure,
get
you need
back
a
down to
break.
ground yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So
do.
and what the last of the seven are is spiritual rest.
Hmm.
And yeah, spiritual rest. So spiritual rest is very important.
Yeah.
Um and acknowledging the Sabbath, right? So because you had said, what was it that you said, Steph, about the Sabbath and spiritual rest and all the things?
So, when it comes down to spiritual rest and the Sabbath, I don't know. I was thinking about that when we were talking, and three things came to my mind. The scripture talks about it, I think, from three perspectives: the promises that come as a result of rest, the commands about rest, and then the principles that surround rest. Like, what do we know are going to happen when we do what we're supposed to do as it relates to rest, right? So what are the principles? And so those and that is encompassed in the Sabbath, like understanding and observing the Sabbath. That's why he asked us to keep it, right? To remember the Sabbath day and to keep it holy. It is issued as a command, but it comes with promises, and the principles also have with it its benefits. So it's imperative for us to know that if God would make it that important, then there has to be a reason why rest is ranked up there with the 10. Like,
Right.
and it's a really important thing to happen for us. And I think it wasn't about just, that he rested on the seventh day when he created. He created us understanding that our bodies and that creation itself needs rest. He commanded that the land be rested. Those who were farmers and tillers of the land, there were rules and regulations around how many years in a row you can use the land, and then you had to take
Mm-hmm.
that same land and not use it for a year.
Yeah.
You know, it's important. And as the creator, he understands the process. He
Mm-hmm.
because he made it, right? He knows how to optimize it, right? How can we keep it at its optimal function? And these are all very important principles to help us keep our bodies at optimal function.
Right. Yep. I don't know if it was Talisha or somebody. I don't know. Because she works on a farm. Um, Occasionally she volunteers. I don't know. She works on a farm, and she was
Hmm.
talking about how they have to like tilt like and they have to leave it alone, and it has a name I can't remember. And I was talking to someone else too, and they said that there's certain times we actually burn it so it can rest. Like they have
Right.
to literally like just say, you know what, we're not
Burn
going.
it up.
Yeah. So yeah, it's important that we acknowledge that and we find that spiritual rest. But what is it about? You said something specific, and I hate when we have these conversations offline and we don't record those parts because they'll sometimes be the best parts of our conversation.
Right.
But there was something you said specifically, jeez, about the Sabbath. What was it? I don't know. I don't know.
I'd be smart sometimes, and then I don't.
Sometimes some, and then we
um,
be like, I said, what now?
mm,
We don't know. We don't know
mm,
what she said. We don't know. But
no,
but let's talk about spiritual
I don't remember.
rest. So spiritual rest is I think especially for church goers, going to church is not spiritual rest.
I think that's what we are talking about. The fact that we spend, if you spend all day in church, and that's not keeping the Sabbath. But
That's not keeping the Sabbath, and it's not spiritual rest either. I
I
went to
mean,
church and I
it's
raised
important
my
for us to gather
hands and
together,
I
right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we say that, right? We know. I think that even in the gathering together, the way church is now, I don't think that's the way the Lord intended, but that's where we are. So, because you can gather together at a community center, you can gather together with some other Christians at somebody's house, right?
Right.
That's
Hmm.
gathering together. So and worshiping together. You can do that anywhere, anyhow, right? So going to church, and even in those community corporate settings, that's not spiritual rest though.
Right. I think where it comes from is that scripture in its entirety says, "Remember the Sabbath and keep it holy." So,
Mm-hmm.
as a consecrative or a means of consecration for one's self towards the things of God, we attend the gathering of the
Mm-hmm.
saints. And so that's considered part of the keeping it holy piece, like, so you don't get caught up maybe in the distractions of you're sitting home all day and you realize, I ain't iron my clothes for the next day or whatever.
Right. Right.
At least you are in the fellowship of others, and sanctifying that time
Mm-hmm.
as a time of worship, and keeping it holy, and saying this is a monument to my walk with God, and to the commandment of rest. And so I think that is where that comes into play, and why I think it's apropos. However, Sabbath really does require us to consider not doing anything. And I remember back in the day, growing up, our moms and aunts and stuff, they always cooked on Saturday night.
Yep.
They would cook on Saturday night. Everything for Sunday would be prepared and ready after church. If we were going to all
Yep.
eat together in one place, then you came with your little covered dish, and that's what we did. But the
Mm-hmm.
toiling that one would do in the kitchen, or toiling with cooking, that didn't happen. We
Mm-hmm.
dipped out late, we warmed everything up and then we ate. But there was no toiling over whatever it was we were supposed to be eating on Sunday, because it was
Yeah.
cooked on night. And that was their way, to avoid the work of it all, right? And
Right.
to honor God by resting and just setting that day aside for gathering, for family, for community, for loving on one another, and for giving our bodies ample time to reboot for the week,
Right.
and so we can give our best to whatever it is else we're doing.
Right. Right. But and I'm thinking, even when it comes to spiritual rest, is finding some time even away from all of that to be able to strengthen your personal relationship with God.
Hmm.
Because even in those settings, you can still be giving out. You're still hugging, and you're still, and we can lose our spiritual connection in our day-to-day grind, for sure. And even in the gathering together of
Hmm.
community, you're still, socializing. It might
Hmm.
not be work or toiling over the stove or cleaning the house or things like anything like that, but we're still giving something out, and we're not really just spending time to commune with God, for ourselves, and just us, me and God, one on one. And for me, that's what spiritual rest really looks like. Um,
And
and
scripture confirms that too, and supports that for sure. When under
mhm,
rest, when I was talking about rest, as a promise, the beauty, Jesus says, that he would provide rest for the weary and the burden, and
mhm,
the Lord talks all the time about being a refuge, a place of rest, and a place that we can hide. In the books of Psalms, you see in the book of Psalms, all throughout Psalms, those kinds
mhm,
of refuges. And I believe that references, that rest, the presence of God provides everything we need in it. So it's important
mhm,
to observe it that way, right? Spiritual rest that way, because that is only in his presence is everything that we need fulfilled, replenished, so that our
mhm.
cups are not running out um, in our everyday lives. And
Right.
and we have to practice God's presence in order to have that, in his
Right.
presence is fullness of joy, and at his right hand pleasure evermore. That's an
Mhm.
Old Testament scripture, but Jesus references it again in the New Testament, when he talks about abiding in his love.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and when we abide in his love and keep his laws, he said your joy will remain full,
Right.
and that he would pour out his joy on you, and that your joy will remain full, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's even right back in the Old Testament scripture that was
Mm-hmm.
written, and the words of Jesus Christ, that my love is so perfect. If you keep my laws, if you obey me, that you won't be empty. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the purpose of rest. The purpose of rest is so that we are not moving throughout this world giving of ourselves from an empty cup.
Right. And I think the scripture you mentioned was when he was saying, "Come to me, all you who are labored and heavy laden."
Every day,
Yeah,
yes.
head
Mm-hmm.
laden, and I will give you. Jesus said that out of his mouth.
Rest.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
he was inviting us to bring ourselves and our all of our pieces to
Mm-hmm.
him, because
Matthew
he
11.
is, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's the
38.
rest provider.
Mm-hmm.
He is the rest provider. And it says take his our it goes on to say take his yoke upon us, for his yoke is easy, and we will find
Mm-hmm.
rest in him, and connection with him in that rest. And that's the kind of spiritual rest I'm talking about, is when we
Mm-hmm.
really take the time to spend some time just with us and the word of God, and in prayer, and some spirit, it's some time to allow God to give us some whole full spiritual rest, because serving in church is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot to be in ministry.
Mm-hmm.
um and we can, I don't know about, I mean, I guess I do, but I really can't really speak to it from a lay member's perspective, because I've never
Mm-hmm.
really been a lay member. I don't think we've ever been just lay members. We were never the family that just went to church and just sat in the pews and went home. Like,
Right.
we never did that. I don't even know what that, I think it's strange, the people who
Right.
just go to church and just don't do nothing.
Glean and leave.
Right, at church. I mean, kudos to those who do that. I'm here for that for you. But
Mm-hmm.
that's never been our portion, right?
Right. That's
So
not
all we know is church ministry. You know, we was
in
ushering,
service.
singing in the choir, doing the vacation Bible schools and community service and outreach. That was all my dad and my sister. We've been doing that our life long.
Lifetime.
Lifelong. My
Yeah.
dad was a pastor, and his passion was outreach and reaching out to people who were less fortunate, and those who were imprisoned, and that was his thing.
And
And
that's what
my
we do.
mom, and that's what we did, and my mom's was too. I mean, we housed more people than, I
The
mean,
law should allow.
listen. I mean, and when I say house, I mean actually lived in our house.
Mm-hmm.
So that was ministry, even in our home. Like, there were times when our house was used for ministry. And Daddy, when he started his church, it was at the house.
Yep.
So we don't. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. So there are times when, in order for it to me to feel connected to not just ministry, but connected to God, and His connection to me, personally, me, you gotta get away from all of that.
But that should be happening every day. So
That's
that
what
is
we
aside
saying.
from the Sabbath, right? Aside from the Sabbath itself is supposed to happen, every day.
That's
Day.
what I'm saying. Spiritual
And
rest
so,
is not the same. Yeah.
right, it's not the same. And I think, it is, the Sabbath is one thing, but our spiritual rest, or that respite, or that practicing of God's presence, should be happening daily. I can't go throughout my, I've tried, like, the
I
times where
haven't
I'm
tried on purpose.
not on purpose, like, it wasn't an intentional try, but I found myself in a position where I'm not reading my word, I'm not praying, I'm not, like, I'm not making an intentional time to do so, and not practicing that presence with intentionality, and my spiritual walk begin to deplete when you look around, and it's the mooring line to keep you close to shore. And what a mooring
Mm-hmm.
line is that just that line that you kind of reference
Mm-hmm.
back to when you're out in the
Yeah,
middle
it
of the
keeps you
ocean.
tethered. Yeah,
It keeps you kind of,
keeps
close to
you tethered.
shore, and you don't have to be worried and anxious about whether or not you're going to drift off And so you know exactly where you're located in the Lord.
Martha and Mary. So talk about it real briefly. You know, Jesus, when they were serving him at their house, Martha was running around doing
Yep.
all the things, cooking, and she was busy, busy bee. And she got
Yep.
mad at her sister because she was sitting at the Lord's feet.
Hmm.
And the Lord told her, chill out. Your sister is doing the most needful thing.
Yeah.
You know, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. But what
Hmm.
she's doing is what's most needful. And that's
Hmm.
sitting at his feet. So, you know,
Yeah.
we hope that, you know, these 2 weeks talking about rest has enabled you guys to start believing that it's okay to take a break.
Yeah.
It's okay to take a break. So in your mindful moment, Steph, on our way out here, what you got?
Just that it, you have to be intentional about all of these things. None of these
Mm,
things are the actual your makeup or nature. So
right.
for me, it is this week to be mindful of the fact that I am not just being caring to myself, but being compassionate to myself and
Mm-hmm.
offering myself every opportunity to replenish, to refurbish, to reboot in every area of my life so
Mm-hmm.
that I can be effective.
Right. Yep. I think it is our makeup in nature. I think God created us in that way where we were supposed to rest and do the things. And I think over time and over the years and over the centuries, that's gotten stolen and taken away from us. And we've been so distracted by so many things. So mine is similar. You know, remind yourself of what it is, how you know, just how the Lord kind of wants things to be and created things for us to be, for our body, for our
Mhm.
mind, for our soul, for and especially for our spirit. He always wanted us to be close to him. You know, he created us to be close to him.
Mhm.
So when you feel yourself drifting away and the world is getting too busy and life is starting to life the way it does,
Cause it
you know, remind it does it every day very faithfully, honey. If life don't do anything else, it will life. Just remind yourself that it's okay to take a break from all the things and recalibrate and get some sleep. Take a mental break, take a social break, take a creative break, take an emotional break, and take a spiritual break, and find you some rest and get well. All right.
it did well.
All right.
Yes.
Thank y'all. Y'all, we appreciate you for being here. We hope that, you commented on some things. We're gonna come back in and take a look at our comments. Please like, follow, and share everywhere on all the
Please like,
socials.
follow, and share.
We thank you so much for spending your time with us here at Church Girls Chronicles, where we always
Thank you,
talk it
guys.
real. And we're gonna see you next week with part 4 technically of doing the right thing, and that's going to be, what is it, community, a healthy community. All right, so we're
Yeah.
gonna have that for you next week on Thursday, so we look forward to seeing you right back here on all of the social media platforms, all of them, all of them, all of them.
All of them,
We
all of
love
them,
you
all of
guys
them
so much.
following us on. Yes, 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 yes.
We love you guys, and we thank
We
you so
love
much
you.
for joining us on
Be
Church Girls
well.
Chronicles. Take
God
care, have a
bless.
good night, bye.